So, today we're diving deep into the military reality facing Iran. It's a fascinating puzzle. Is the country this impenetrable fortress that everyone talks about? Or is its power actually a lot more fragile than it seems? We're going to unpack a recent analysis that really sheds some new light on this whole high-stakes situation. And that right there, that's the million-dollar question we're exploring. On one hand, you've got a nation with some truly immense defensive capabilities. But on the other, there are these critical vulnerabilities that could, well, shatter that whole image of strength. So, which one is it? Let's dig in and find out. All right, so first things first. To really get a handle on Iran's position, we have to talk about why a classic ground war, the kind we've seen in other conflicts in the region, is pretty much off the table from the get-go. I mean, just look at the geography here. It's a completely different ballgame. The source material really hammers this home. Unlike places like Iraq or Libya, Iran is absolutely massive. The whole country is dominated by these huge mountain ranges and incredibly difficult terrain. For any army trying to invade, that is a logistical nightmare. Military analysts have a term for this: strategic depth. It means an invading army can't just cross a border and win. No way. They'd have to fight their way across this vast, hostile land. And all the while, Iran's huge and very prepared military, especially the IRGC, would use those mountains and deserts to just bleed them dry. They'd get bogged down in this awful, grueling guerrilla war. A conventional victory on the ground? Almost impossible. So, here's the thing. While Iran's ground defense looks like a literal fortress, that's just not where modern wars are won anymore. The entire game has changed. And that brings us to what the analysis identifies as Iran's single biggest weakness, a weakness that completely bypasses all those fortress walls we just talked about. This slide really just lays out the core imbalance of this whole conflict. Sure, Iran has its strengths, boots on the ground, and a pretty scary missile arsenal, but the analysis makes it clear that the US and Israel hold this undeniable, overwhelming advantage where it really counts today, up in the air and in the world of advanced tech. And look, the source material is pretty blunt about this. Iran just hasn't kept up in these absolutely crucial areas. The modern battlefield is all about advanced drones, next-gen fighter jets, super sophisticated air defenses, and electronic warfare. And in that arena, Iran is playing at a serious disadvantage. So that gets you thinking, right? It's a fascinating strategic problem. If you can't just march your army into the fortress and take it over, what do you do? What's the alternative? How do you actually fight an opponent whose conventional defenses are that strong? Well, it turns out there's a totally different playbook already in motion. It's a strategy that doesn't go after the country's buildings or its people. Instead, it targets its leadership. It's called a decapitation strategy, and it's usually carried out with these incredibly precise drone strikes and deep cover intel operations. And here's the breakdown of how it works. The goal isn't to destroy the entire system, not at all. It's surgical. You take out the key military and resistance leaders, one by one. The thinking is, by removing the top of the command chain, you basically paralyze the entire organization and create this huge power vacuum. And listen, this isn't just some theory on a whiteboard, it's happening right now. The source points to some major successes of the strategy, with the elimination of huge figures like Hassan Nasrallah, Yahya Sinwar, and Ismail Haniyeh. I mean, these were leaders who were at the very center of the axis of resistance for decades. Okay, so what's the ultimate goal here? What's the end game of this whole decapitation strategy? It's not just about messing with their military. According to the analysis, the goal is something much, much bigger. Let's explore that. The key takeaway here is that this is a strategy of indirect warfare. The whole objective is to weaken the state from the outside, to degrade it so much that all the internal dissent just boils over and the whole thing collapses from within. It completely avoids the need to ever put foreign boots on the ground. And this isn't some secret plan, by the way. This approach has been encouraged right out in the open. I mean, look at this quote from Donald Trump. It's a direct call for the Iranian people to basically take matters into their own hands and overthrow what's being called a weak regime. But, and this is a huge but, the analysis also shows a really powerful counterpoint. This whole strategy relies on the idea that the Iranian people will eventually turn on their government. But then you see something like the Supreme Leader's funeral, where millions of people turned out. That sent a really different message, didn't it? It suggests that a lot of Iranians, no matter what their problems are with the government, do not want foreign intervention and will rally around their leaders when they feel attacked. Okay,
let's zoom out for a second, because this regional conflict, it's not happening in a bubble. The stability of Iran has massive, and I mean massive, implications for global powers, especially for two big players, China and Russia. And you can see here the stakes for them are enormous. For Russia, losing Iran means losing a critical strategic partner and a whole lot of influence in the Middle East. For China, the risk is even more immediate. Iran is a vital source of oil, and any instability there could seriously threaten China's energy security by cutting off those crucial supply lines. So, when you put all the pieces together, the source argues that this is about way more than just Iran. It's part of a much bigger geopolitical strategy. It's about preventing Iran from getting a nuclear weapon, for sure, but it's also about cementing Israel's dominance in the region, chipping away at China's growing power, and sending a very clear message to any other country in the area that might think about challenging the status quo. And that brings us right back to the ultimate question. Is this strategy of outside pressure and targeted killings going to work? Will it actually lead to the collapse of the Iranian state? Or is the system, for all its vulnerabilities, going to prove resilient enough to hold on and resist? The stakes, not just for the region, but for the entire world, really couldn't be any higher.